Hello, welcome to the February 12th edition of Friday Facts and Fun. Today we're still working through our Cyber Generations module and we'll be learning about internet scams and fraud. Do either of the following sound familiar to you? Hello, my name is Angela from Phone USA. Do you have a moment to talk about your current phone plan? I will just need your Social Security number to verify your account. Or, congratulations, you just won an all-expense-paid trip to Hawaii. Press 1 to speak to a prize representative to claim your free vacation. Yeah, there's lots of these things out there. Today, we're going to learn about types of phone and email scams, examples of these fraudulent schemes, identity theft and how to prevent it, what information you can share and what not to share over the phone and on the web, and some online shopping safety tips. Most of us have at one time or another been the victim of phone calls and emails such as the ones I just presented. These fraudulent activities are very common, and scammers are getting more sophisticated and making it harder to detect as technology advances make it easier for them to entrap innocent people. Because again, as we discussed last week, they use social engineering and they take advantage of us, our emotions, our wanting to be helpful, our wanting to be kind, our fear, our greed. Did you know that older U.S. adults lose an estimated $3.68 billion a year due to fraud and financial exploitation? And these fraud opportunities occur both over the phone and through personal and work emails. Here are some examples of types of scams. And for all of these, scammers may spoof the email. Spoofing is the act of disguising a communication from an unknown source as being from a known, trusted source. So they use sites, web addresses that look similar to a trusted source, such as your bank or your insurance company or a government agency like the IRS. And they then require you either to log in, they require payment, or gather personal information such as your Social Security number. They may make a false claim and say, if you sign in here, you'll resolve your insurance claim. They may request a monetary donation, or they can provide a link to complete a survey and win a prize. Scammers also use phone calls to request PIN numbers or Social Security numbers, to demand immediate payment, to request other personal information about an unfiled claim, or request monetary donations or more information, to introduce a new love match, or to offer a trip or other tempting prize in response to a survey. Let's look at a few of these more in depth. So let's start with the business ones, the trusted financial institutions. Usually these are emails that have been spoofed to look like your institution, your bank. So we need to make sure we understand what a legitimate web address looks like. And I've put an example here. So always when you're looking at the web address, remember we want that HTTPS. The S is secured. The spoofed addresses will not have that because it's something they have to get that security through setting up the site. And they're not legitimate sites, so they're not going to have it. This long part that's www.google.com, that whole thing together is called the resource name. The first part, www, is known as a subdomain, whereas the domain name is Google, and then the sub-level domain is the .com, .gov, etc. The part after that, in this case, the index.html, is a file path that takes you where it wants to go. So once you understand how these names work, remember, always look at the email address where the email came from. And if your email just says Bank of America, for example, hover the mouse over it, it will show you the full name of that email address or that website address, because you need to know that it is a legitimate site. So that is one of the first protective measures you can take to verify that this is an email from your actual financial institution, insurance company, retirement account, etc. If the email asks for personal information, remember, legitimate businesses will not contact you through email to ask this information. They have this information from when you filled out and set up your account. Contact them by phone or in person to verify what the email says. Just delete the email and move on. You can also send it, as we discussed last week, to those fraud links so that the government can begin investigating. Next, we move to government scams, and a lot of these purport to come from the IRS, although some also can say they're from the FBI or the Federal Trade Commission or elsewhere. But the most common ones claim to be the IRS. And again, this is a spoofed email. It's not really from the IRS. It's an unsolicited email claiming to be from the IRS, and they usually link to, again, a spoofed or sham website that looks real. The goal is to lure victims to give up their personal information. If the scammer gets what they're after, they use this information to steal your money and identity. Usually these IRS scams claim you owe money, threaten you, or provide a link so that you can resolve the situation. They may even say that they'll send law enforcement after you. The opposite is to claim that you are owed a refund and that you need to click here and fill out this form in order to get your refund. Either way, the scammer is after your personal and financial information. How do we deal with these types of emails? First rule is do not open the email. Or if it is a phone call, because these can also come through the telephone, don't answer calls from unknown numbers. Either way, phone call or email, do not give out your personal or financial information. Emails can be forwarded to phishing@irs-gov. Then, once you've forwarded it, delete it. Be sure you do not click on any links or open any attachments to that email. Remember, we discussed malware last week. Finally, remember, the IRS will not call about taxes without first having sent you a bill in the mail. If you haven't received a bill, believe that the call or the email that you're getting now is a fraud. Also remember that the IRS will not demand immediate payment. They give you opportunity to inquire as to what you owe and to make arrangements for payment. They don't demand immediate payment. It's definitely not. You have to pay specifically through PayPal or some other form. What about money scams, also sometimes known as the grandparent scam? Scammers can call or email and claim to be a friend or family member. They claim that they're desperate for financial help because they're stranded, they're out of the country, they've been in an accident, they've lost their wallet, all sorts of things. And then they ask you to wire money to a specific location. How do we deal with this? Again, they're acting on our fear and our concern for this friend or loved one. So, if it's a phone call, ask a question that only that person would know the answer to. It's one way of verifying that you're dealing with that person and not a scammer. If it's an email, don't reply to the sender. Instead, use your email address book, look up the email address of the person that the email you received claims to be from, and email them through that address. That way you're contacting the real person to get the truthful story. You're not contacting the scammer. Another thing is to pause. Stop and think. Is this person really out of the country? How can I verify that? Maybe contact another friend or relative, or maybe the person's workplace to make sure if they're really out of the country. What we should never do is give our credit card or bank information over the phone or through email. We should never send a wire transfer, credit card or bank information without confirming the identity of the person and that the request is legitimate. If you do believe the person on the email or phone call is in serious trouble and does need immediate help, first, get as much information as possible about their location, about their health status, about what happened to cause this situation. Then, get off the phone with them, contact the proper authorities. If they're in a foreign country, there's generally a U.S. embassy you can contact to have them help you find out where the person is and solve the situation. There's always also the local law enforcement. Get help from someone on site. What about prize scams or foreign lottery scams? Scammers send emails to say that you've won a prize or a huge sum of money through a foreign lottery, but they ask for a processing fee which they'll withdraw from your bank account. Alternately, they might be offering you the opportunity to win by entering, and then the entry form requires your personal information. How to deal with these? Do not reply to these emails. Do not answer phone calls that you don't know. That way you don't even get to that point of the situation. Do not give out your bank or personal information. You can do a quick internet search to verify the authenticity of a company. And finally, remember, if you did not enter a lottery, there is no way that you're going to win it. So therefore, if they tell you you've already won and you didn't do it, this is definitely a scam. What about survey scams? Emails that prompt you to click on suspicious links or phone calls asking you to provide personal information in response to a survey. Either of these may offer a prize for completing the survey. So let me give you a couple of examples. Congratulations, your IP address has been randomly selected to receive an iPhone X. Just complete this quick survey by clicking here. Or, we want to thank you for being a loyal Google user. Today's your lucky day. You are one of 10 randomly selected users who will receive a gift. Just complete this short and anonymous survey. Click here. Where you're clicking, those links are to either add malware or to gather your information that you shouldn't be giving out. So again, how do we deal with these? Don't click on the suspicious links. Don't give out personal and financial information. And be sure to report the spam email or phone call to the relevant authorities. Money-making scams. Oh yes, these are definitely prevalent. Emails and phone calls that promise you can make some amount of money by working from home and with minimum effort. The typical get-rich-quick scheme. They may prompt you to purchase a training kit or ask you to pay a small registration fee, And although they may ask for a check, often they'll request payment in some different way, through PayPal, through an app, by Bitcoin, or ask you to get a prepaid gift card. Many of these companies are based overseas and they don't provide any contact info. How do we deal with these money-making scams? First off, remember, if it sounds too good to be true, it is. Do a quick internet search. Use Google, Bing, Ask, or any of the other internet search engines. You may find out there's already some information online about the illegitimacy of the suspicious company. Check with your Better Business Bureau. A lot of times these scams have been reported to them and they can say, no, that's not legitimate. Computer security scams. And these can be calls or emails, but more generally calls. Fraudulent support employees will call you claiming to be from trusted companies like Microsoft or Apple. They tell the victim that there's a problem with their computer and they've detected this problem. They need remote access to fix the problem for you. If you give them remote access, the hacker will then either demand money to fix the problem that's made up, or they can install malware that helps them steal your personal financial data from your computer. So how do we deal with these? Remember, tech support will not contact you. You have to contact them first. Again, do not share personal or financial information with the caller. Don't give anyone remote access to your computer if you did not initiate the transaction. If there is an actual problem with your computer, be sure you look up the customer service information on the product's website. That's the legitimate way to deal with it. Dating scams. These are becoming more prevalent. In fact, on the news just 2 days ago, there was a story about a gentleman in Houston who lost $70,000 through a dating scam. Scammers connect to their victims through some online dating site, posing as an interested single looking to make a genuine connection with a like-minded individual. Again, this is the social engineering. They're playing on people who are lonely and want to have a connection. So they set up a elaborate profile and backstory with pictures of real people. Once you establish contact with that profile, they push the relationship forward very quickly. And then they claim to have some kind of emergency, or they provide an emotionally wrenching story and ask for money. It may be that they need an operation, or their grandchild needs an operation, or they're in a foreign country and want to come to America to meet you, but they just don't have the money. So how do we deal with these? Be very cautious of people who claim to be madly in love with you before they've met you in person. Beware of people claiming to be Americans working overseas. And even if you feel a strong connection, remember, don't ever send money to someone that you have not met in person. Charity scams. Charity scams are usually very sophisticated. Scammers take advantage of kind-hearted people and swindle them into donating to these bogus organizations. These scams change periodically depending on the latest natural disaster or humanitarian crisis. Scammers use high-pressure sales tactics to extract money from their victims. Right now, coronavirus is a big problem. People want vaccines. Donate to this charity and we'll get you to the top of the list. Those kinds of things. Definitely scams. How to deal with these? So first, do your research before you donate to any organizations, or donate only to organizations that you know and trust, that you know are legitimate. You can check sites. There are watchdog sites such as Charity Navigator, Charity Watch, and the Better Business Bureau's Wise Giving Alliance. All of these rate charities as to whether or not they're good for giving. You can also check with your state's regulatory agency for charities. In Texas, this is the Office of the Attorney General. Delete any unsolicited emails, and again, stick with charities that you know and trust. Identity theft. That's the goal of all these scams, is to steal the identity of unsuspecting people, to defraud them and the government. By taking the identity, they can conduct illegal activities and steal money that does not belong to them. One issue is the increasing use of online tax filing services that make it easier for scammers to steal your information and use it to make fraudulent tax claims. Right now it's tax season. File as soon as possible. That will help you prevent scammers from getting to your tax refund before you do. Scammers can also use stolen information to submit fraudulent billings to Medicare or Medicaid or receive other social benefits. Usually these scams are in connection with a fraudulent doctor or medical facility. So they set up this fake medical facility, get your Medicare, Medicaid information, and send a bill to them, to Medicaid or Medicaid, which the government then pays on your behalf, and it wasn't a real bill. So what do we do to protect ourselves from these situations? Well, mostly this is a after the fact situation, but you can, on your credit report, put a block so that people can't request your credit report without your specific permission. If you do believe you have been a victim, so the first thing to do is contact the organization from which the theft occurred and let them know that this was not you that did this, that someone has stolen your identity. Contact the police and do a police report. Report the identity theft to the Federal Trade Commission, and then contact a credit reporting agency. Ask them to place a fraud alert on your credit report. If you don't already have the block, this will prevent other accounts being opened in your name while the identity theft is being investigated and resolved. Some other things we need to know are some online safety tips. Always use reputable retailers to avoid the risk of being sold counterfeit goods. Remember, if a price seems too good to be true, you might need to research the seller before making that purchase. A lot of us think, oh, if I read the review, I'll be good. Don't believe all reviews that you read online. Reviews can be bought and sold, and phony reviews are everywhere. Believe me, I've experienced this. I worked somewhere where the owner's daughter put in a fake review. I was appalled that she would do that, but it happens. Be especially skeptical if the review seems generic or too over the top. Be wary when searching websites that they're not a shady websites. If somewhere offers a too good to be true deal, remember that's an alert. They may be trying to steal your information. And verify the legitimacy of a website before providing your personal information. As I showed you earlier, look at that address bar carefully. Lastly, be careful of any additional fees when it's a way to jack up the prices and get extra money from you. So those usually show up at the end of the transaction when you're trying to check out. Maybe shipping fees, insurance fees, handling fees, etc. If you don't think these costs are appropriate, and usually these are higher than would be normal, cancel the order. Just don't do it. Read the site's privacy policy. I know those are long and boring, but before giving out your sensitive information, it's important that you know how that retailer, how that website is going to use that personal information. And beware that you are not giving out financial or personal information when you're on an unprotected connection or device. Before you click on pop-ups, always think, is this pop-up legitimate? And the various types are antivirus, malware, which we talked about last week, updates to some program that's on your computer, Adobe, Flash, Java updates, email or internet pop-ups that when you go into your email or you open the internet just appear. The really dangerous ones are the ones that stay on your screen, even when you try to close them. So, how do we deal with these? Let's start with the antivirus, anti-malware. As we discussed last week, you should already have antivirus on your computer, and that should prevent these. You're not going to be you should never be asked to take action to add antivirus or deal with a malware infection. You shut down your computer, delete your browsing history. So you can do that in your homepage, your internet homepage. Go to history and delete. For the updates to your program that's on your computer, don't do them from the pop-up. Always go directly to their website. If it's Adobe, go to Adobe, and from their website, download the most recent up-to-date version. For email and internet pop-ups, if a pop-up is initiated by your internet search or by using your email account, it cannot be trusted. Be sure you have a pop-up blocker on your computer and use it. If you're online, you can choose not to participate or fill in any pop-ups. Again, beware and don't open it, don't click on it. Dangerous pop-ups are ones that even if you don't click on it, if you close it or try to close it and it won't close, they will stay on your screen. If it's from an antivirus company that you don't recognize, or if you're asked to make a payment to remove it, or if it requests remote access to your computer. Remember, those are the really, really dangerous ones, and you want to avoid them. The best solution is do not click on the pop-up. If the pop-up won't go away, you can always do Alt-Control-Delete and bring up the task manager to close out. If that doesn't resolve it, you may have to do a hard shutdown and have someone check your computer. It may be time to call in a professional computer tech to help you resolve the issue. So, a lot of information today, and there's a lot of scammers out there. Next week, we're going to be looking at social media safety.